Better thinking, faster decisions, bigger ROI. This is the Finding 12 Minutes podcast. The idea is simple. If you can find 12 minutes of efficiency in your day, you will gain an hour every week. And that changes how we work. Each episode is focused on practical ways to use AI, technology, and smarter strategies to help you move faster, think clearer, and get more done with less effort. So let's find your 12 minutes. So on today's episode, we want to talk about protein donuts. And how does that kind of relate back to artificial intelligence? And I think when you take a step back, why is AI starting to look like protein in everything? You're seeing it in fast food, you're seeing it in donuts, you're seeing it in your coffee, protein coffee. You're even seeing it in snacks where everything is protein. So I guess the question then becomes, why does it feel like AI is following that same exact path? Protein isn't everything right now. Donuts, cereal, everything's high protein. Not because it fundamentally changes the product, because that's what's selling. So when you think about AI, that seems to be the exact same thing. We're just throwing in AI to make it sell, whether it belongs there or not. So in this episode, I want to kind of break down that parallel. AI isn't suddenly transforming every product it's attached to. Just because you have AI in a tool or you're calling something that is AI, is it really AI or is it just a more fancy chatbot, right? Search, right? AI search. We think that this is some magical thing. In reality is it's just allowing us to index the data better and access it faster. It's not really transforming the product in any particular way, so to speak. So in many cases, it's really just a label, a feature, a marketing hook. I really do believe it's kind of more of a marketing hook in my opinion. But the real question then becomes, does it have AI versus does it actually do anything useful? I think you'll see that there's a lot of tools out there, whether you're in, architecture, engineering, construction, where is Revit and Procore and all those other tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. Where is their AI function? And they're taking their time doing it. And I know they're working on it and things are coming forward, but it's really like, how do you drive core value with the AI versus just slapping it on there? So in this episode, let's challenge the way we kind of think about this growing trend, right? So AI as a sales tactic versus, say, AI as a value driver, right? Just like the protein labeling, right? It may signal that something is better. It may influence your buying behavior. It may even ask you you may ask yourself, should I be buying this if it has AI or not? But I think when you really do look at those products, how often does it lack any meaningful impact? Slapping AI on something. I'm going to give you an example. Recently bought a television and it has something in there called AI sound. I don't even know what that means. Like, what is that really doing? Like, outside of the saying that my television has AI in it, not in the traditional sense that I can ask it questions or interact with it like it's a voice prompt or something. It just tells me AI sound. So when AI is being applied in the same way in terms of how they're slapping that label on fast food and coffee and drinks, we all start to take a step back and think, is this a surface level, right? Is it vague? And is it, honestly, it's very often likely very unnecessary. So sometimes when you think about innovation, you think about product development, you think about these things, right? The one question I always ask when we're kind of developing these roadmaps and these strategies is like, what value is it driving? Is it driving any value to the customer? Is it driving any value to the shareholder? Is it driving any value, period, outside of just slapping a label on there? I think the challenging part with some of that is that if you put AI on there and people have an expectation of what they think AI is, and then turns around that it really doesn't do anything of value, or it's basically just doing the same thing it did before, i.e., just, a more robust search, that doesn't mean that it's really AI. Yeah, there may be some AI components to it, help with the indexing, help with some other things. But at the end of the day, did it really add any other value outside of saying that there's an AI label? So let's go back to the protein donuts, that perfect analogy, right? Protein, used to be a functional thing, right? It's nutrition, it's recovery, it's performance. Now it's really marketing driven, right? It's the same product with literally just new branding, slightly tweaked, higher perceived value, right? So AI is being added to products in the same way, I think, because it increases the perceived value, but not the actual value. Right. I think we're putting it on there. We're slapping these labels on there because that's what we think that the buyer wants to hear. Right. Where we're riding the hype. Now, can you blame the marketers? Can you blame the product people for doing that? No. Right. Like, why would I buy your product versus another product if you don't have this hook around being protein enabled? Right. So using the same language, protein enabled versus AI enabled. So if you think of it in that way, right, where's that perceived value versus the actual value again? Hard to say. So if AI is moving in that same direction, is AI, or do we feel AI is really just a label and not a capability? And are we doing ourselves a disservice longer term by rushing out the door, putting an AI label on something that's really not AI capable, or in some instances, really AI light? Just to say that it's AI powered then becomes the default tagline. Do we diminish that value going longer term? Do the consumers start to question what that really means? And does it become just a random label that people put on products and consumers don't really continue to buy what that is? So companies don't need to really explain it. They just slap the label on it and say, hey, this is protein donuts. Oh, okay, a protein donut is better than a regular donut. Well, no, it's at the end of the day, it's just a donut. And, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, I'm eating the donut not because I'm looking to get all my protein. And I think AI is the same exact way. You think about, again, go back to that AI sound on the TV. What does that actually mean? Is there a meaningfully better way to kind of position this or rebrand it? What is it really doing? And if you're slapping AI on a product or a process, is it really kind of doing anything, or is it driving any value? Is, I guess, the real big point there. So the danger in a lot of this is that it's going to be noise over the signal. When everything's labeled AI, nothing's going to really stand out. And I think maybe that's the point, right? Everyone's rushing to go out and create AI ready products simply because they know it's going to sell. But the challenge and the struggle that we're going to have is that real innovation is going to end up getting buried underneath the marketing message. Buyers are going to lose clarity on what really matters. And I think that's a struggle. So could you be slapping AI on your product? It's not really doing anything of value. The consumer buys into it and then realizes that you're really not delivering what AI really is. And now you've actually done more damage to your brand and more damage to your product going forward. So this mirrors what happens in kind of the broader sense, right? AI, real power is decision making, analysis, and speed, and not necessarily superficial features. I think 3 years ago, go back to 2023, maybe it was superficial, like we were all caught up in the hype. But the hype caught up to reality, and now it's really focused on those decision-making things. It's focused on the analysis and speed, in addition to creation. But are you really trying to drive a lot of value there? So the shift that you want to make here is stop asking, does it have AI? And start asking, what does the AI actually do? How does it really save me time? So going back to that finding 12 minutes concept, how does it save me time? How does it help me improve my decisions? What does it, do to help me kind of run my business, be more efficient? And if the answer is no, and it doesn't do any of those things, then the reality is it's really just a protein donut. And we want to avoid that. We want to avoid just creating superficial, artificial, non-value driving activities that really don't do anything for the consumer at the end of the day outside of just tricking them, so to speak, to buy your product, buy your service because you slapped an AI label onto it. So some practical takeaways. Let's kind of get back to the practicality of what all this really means. I think there's a simple filter that most people that are in the business of either buying software responsible for driving adoption and usage through their organization really need to ask themselves, right? And I think part of it, and I've said this numerous times, is that you need to start avoiding like starting with the tool and starting with the problem. What problem are you really trying to solve? So some of the questions that you could ask is, does it reduce time? Does it improve quality? Does it change on how we make decisions as an organization? And if it doesn't check at least one of those things, then it's a marketing and not a capability, right? It's a marketing message, not a capability. So you really want this to kind of drive into that core concept that small, real efficiencies really do compound into meaningful gains, and not just having a label on a software that says, hey, we have artificial intelligence. So some of the things that we want to kind of continue to drive home, right? AI is becoming a new protein label if we don't do things differently. And just because an application, a software solution says that it's AI doesn't mean it's actually going to do anything of value. My opinion is most AI features today are really protein donuts. The value isn't in the label. It's going to go back to that concept of it's focused on the outcome. And then I would encourage people that are in that buying decision mode and then have that buying decision responsibility to stop buying AI and start focusing on buying results. So kind of wrap with this next 12 minutes, right? AI, from a real perspective, is powerful and is transformational, but right now what's being sold in a lot of software packages and a lot of applications, a lot of things, is AI isn't actually really driving value. It's more positioning the product. And so the opportunity isn't to chase AI everywhere. It's to identify where the actual value is created and then ignore all the rest. So if you are evaluating AI in your business or in the work that you do, pick one tool. Ask yourself a question. Does this help me find efficiencies, and does it drive real value to both my customers and my shareholders? And if it does, keep it. And if it doesn't, then it's just another protein donut. And that's your 12 minutes. If you found value in this, share it with someone who needs to work smarter, not harder. And remember, small efficiencies compound. Find 12 minutes a day and the results take care of themselves. I'll see you in the next episode.